What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now today is going to be the big day where we finally get a chance to install the God Spec TE37 Saga S Plus wheels with the Yokohama V601 tires onto the Honda Civic Type R FL5 and Boost Blue Pearl. Now it's been a long time coming with all the wheel preparation we had to perform, and also taking these wheels up to Discount Tire and having tires carefully mounted. Okay, so on today's episode, obviously we're going to install these wheels onto the FL5 Type R, but before doing so, I'm actually going to go and show you guys the proper lifting procedures in order to get the FL5 Type R up in the air safely and securely. And on top of that, we're also going to do a weight comparison between the Saga S Plus God Spec wheels versus the OEM 19 by 9.5 wheels and tires. So we're going to go ahead and see what those weights come out to be, and then we're going to have actually a little challenge at the end of the episode here. So I'm actually curious how the weights are reduced between these 18 by 10s versus the OEM 19 by 9.5s. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get these TE37 God Spec wheels mounted onto the FL5 Type R. Let's go and get started. Alright guys, one last look with the FL5 Type R and Boost Blue Pearl with the OEM FL5 wheels, which are 19 by 9.5 with a plus 60mm offset. Obviously I've changed that with the wheel spacers, so I got 20mm spacers up front and 25mm spacers in the rear. I just can't stand the offset on these factory wheels. That's the only thing I hate about these things, but you know, I think these are a fantastic wheel design. You know, I kind of feel guilty pulling these wheels off, but I'm just kind of tired of running the whole spacer. Okay, so this metal piece right here in between the wheel and the hub, that's the wheel spacer. Basically what that does is actually pulls the wheels a little bit out towards the edge of the fender. So like I said before, that's the only gripe I have with these OEM wheels. It's just the high offset with these wheels, which is a plus 60mm offset. So technically right now these are a plus 40mm offset. Okay, similar situation with the rear. I went with 25mm on the rear simply because when I was pulling measurements upon ordering these spacers, the front wheels actually protrude out just a little bit more. I think it's like 1/8 of an inch or maybe 3/16 more than the rears do. So a lot of people actually run a thicker spacer on the rear, just to kind of offset that a little bit. Okay, so this is a little bit bittersweet. So I think I'm gonna hold on to these OEM wheels. I mean, I like these things a lot, so there's no telling. Maybe I'll just alternate OEM wheels one season and then the Rays TE37s for another season, so I don't know. Okay, 19 by 9.5 plus 60mm offset wheels. Here's some fantastic looking wheels, but the offset on you are just horrible, so that's the main reason we're changing to aftermarket wheels, and plus a little bit of lighter rotational mass. We'll get into that later. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the proper lifting procedures on the FL5 Type R. Let me show the equipment needed. Okay, so I got 4 jack stands right here, and I got my hydraulic floor jack. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get my hydraulic floor jack, and there's a jacking location on the frame rail right around this region right here, and I'm going to raise up this front corner. I'm going to stick some lumber underneath this tire right here to give me some additional extra inches of clearance. I need to go ahead and replicate that on the passenger side, and then once I have some extra clearance, I'm able to get my floor jack or roll it behind the motor, because for whatever reason the FL5 Type R central jacking position on the central, it's actually right behind the motor. It's hard to get to, so that's the best way possible to get to it. Okay, now lifting up the rear of the FL5 Type R, it's not as bad as you may think. Now the central lift point on the rear, actually it's hidden. Okay, so taking a closer look at the exhaust outlets right here, on the far left of the left exhaust outlet, you got this little cutout piece right here on the rear diffuser. So this is held in place with 2 push clips. I believe they're on the underside. One's right here, I believe. But when I lift it up, I'll go ahead and show you some more detail. And then we actually remove this little panel from the rear diffuser, and actually that's where the main lift point is. We'll take the floor jack and raise up the car. We got to get the floor jack carefully into position right here without damaging the exhaust or the rear diffuser. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and lift up the FL5 Type R safely and securely. All right, guys, we got the front end safely lifted up onto the wood blocks. That way we got some clearance underneath the front of the car. And let me show you the main central jacking location on the front of the FL5 Type R. This is tricky right here. Okay, so underneath the FL5 Type R, you got this engine shield right here. And right behind this engine shield, you got this large circular opening, and that's where we need to jack up the front of the car with the floor jack. So we need to be careful and make sure that it reaches this central jacking point right here. Let me go behind the front tire and see if I get a better angle here. Okay, and behind the front tire right here, I can't really reach too much in there, but right in the circular opening, that's where the central jack location's at. So I'm gonna go ahead and carefully get my floor jack and raise up the car and put the jack stands underneath the factory jack points. And then once this car is lifted up and on jack stands safely, I'll crawl underneath and actually show you what this central jack location looks like. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and raise up the front of the FL5 Type R and put jack stands underneath the factory jack points on the driver's side and the passenger side. All right, front end of the FL5 is officially safely lifted up and supported with the factory jack points. It is very tricky in order to reach that rear main jacking point. I'll climb underneath the car and I'll actually show you guys. So as you can see right here, you get this engine pan right there, and then right behind that is this circular opening. So I've got this highlighted with my flashlight. This piece of metal right here with the circle in the center of it, this is your central jack point to raise up the front of the car. It's hard to get to. I mean, most Hondas are actually in front of the motor, but for whatever reason, the FL5 designated this right behind the motor, which it's a little bit of a hassle, but it is what it is at this point. So you just gotta take some extra steps in order to get clearance underneath the front tires so you can actually reach this with a floor jack. So I've got a jack stand underneath the passenger side pinch weld for the jacking point. Let me show you that. Okay, so this body colored piece of metal that actually protrudes from the frame rail, this is actually the jacking point from the factory. So you want to have your jack stand in place on this factory jack point right there. And the same thing applies on the driver's side. You want to have your jack stand supporting on the factory jack point. All right, so again, you got the piece of metal that protrudes from the factory frame rail. That's usually body color, and that's basically the jacking point from the factory. And that's what you want your jack stand setting in place right there. Okay, one major thing to note before lifting up your FL5 or any car, truck for that matter, is you need to go ahead and chalk the rear tires. So right here, I've got a piece of wood right behind the rear tires, and I've also got the parking brake set in place because you don't want to be raising this car up and having the possibility of the car rolling backwards. I mean, that could actually cause some serious injury or even some death. Okay, same thing for this side. I got a piece of wood chalking the rear tires, and I've got the parking brake set in place. So safety first when raising up a car. This is no joking matter right here. Okay, let's go ahead and put some emphasis on the rear jacking point. So right here on the left-hand side of the exhaust, you got this piece of metal that hangs down from the body of the car. And this is basically where you want to jack the car up. So you gotta be very careful in order to get your saddle if you're jacking here because it actually just fits just right. So you wanna go ahead and put the saddle on the bottom side of this piece of metal right here and raise it up, and then you can put the jack stands in place. Okay, let's go ahead and raise up the rear of the FL5 Type R. All right, rear of the FL5 Type R is safely lifted in position. Okay, and this piece of metal right here, right behind this panel that's removed, that's your rear jacking point. So go ahead and safely lift up with your hydraulic floor jack. And then once you have enough clearance, go ahead and slip a floor jack on both driver's side and passenger side on the jacking point. So this piece of metal that protrudes down that's body colored from the frame rails itself, that's the factory jack point, and that's where you want to put your jack stands right underneath there. And replicate that on the passenger side as well. One jack stand supported with the factory jack point right there. Just remember, guys, safety first. You don't want to skimp on safety on lifting a car. Okay, next step of the process, let's take a 22mm socket and remove the wheels from the FL5 Type R. Okay, the factory 19 by 9.5 plus 60 millimeter offset wheels are now safely removed from the FL5 Type R. Okay, the next step is optional for those that actually put spacers on the car. So these are hub-centric and wheel-centric spacers. These are forged spacers. Never had any issue with any vibrations. I torqued everything to spec, including the mounting bolts right here. So these silver studs right here, these are your factory wheel studs on the FL5. And these black studs right here, these are the new studs for the spacer. So this basically achieves 20 millimeter additional offset, or actually negative offset, shall I say, to push the wheels a little bit out towards the edge of this fender right here. And the same theory here on the back. These are 25 millimeter spacers, hub-centric and wheel-centric, made by Bonos. Like I said before, never had any issues, no vibrations, no funny business, but I just went ahead and made sure I followed all the installation instructions according to torquing these things to spec right here. So these are the bolts we need to remove. So I got a 19 millimeter thin-walled socket. You cannot get a 19 millimeter impact socket in there, by the way. So we're gonna have to remove this by hand most likely. So essentially just take your socket, insert it into here, attach it to a breaker bar, and we'll see if we can remove this. Now the rear should be a little bit more easier due to the fact that I got the parking brake on, so it's locking the hub assembly in place. Now the front's gonna be a little bit more tricky, even though I've got it in gear. You know, you'll be able to spin the motor, so I might have to actually take a piece of 2x4 and wedge it up against the stud in order to lock it in position. So without further ado, let's go ahead and remove the wheel spacers from the FL5 Type R. Okay, final wheel spacer is removed from the FL5 Type R, and we got one more step to go. So right here, I got a brass brush right here, and if you're like me and put a little small dab of some removable thread lock on the wheel spacers, let's just go ahead and carefully clean the threads right here of the OEM studs to get any remnants of the thread lock removed. And you just gotta go ahead and take the appropriate steps. And don't forget to get the underside. And this right here, I think I got this at the automotive flea market. I think it was like 99 cents, but it's basically a brass wire brush. So it's actually got soft bristles as opposed to like steel bristles. All right, OEM wheel studs is clean from the removable thread lock, and rinse and repeat for the other three corners. All right, before we go ahead and mount the TE37 God Spec 18 by 10 rims on the FL5 Type R, let's go ahead and do a little experiment right here. So right here, you got the OEM FL5 19 by 9.5 plus 60 millimeter offset wheels. And then we got the TE37 18 by 10 plus 40 millimeter offset wheels with tires. So we're gonna do a weight comparison. So obviously, the more rotational mass you have on your vehicle, the slower it's gonna feel. So that's one of the reasons I went ahead and upgraded wheels, because I wanted a more playful vehicle per se. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a guess right here. So I want you guys to comment below what you guys think what the weight of this wheel and tire combination is gonna be compared to the God Spec wheel and tire combination. So I'm gonna go ahead and say the OEM FL5 Type R wheel and tire combination, I'm gonna say this is 52 pounds. And then for the God Spec 18 by 10 TE37s, I'm gonna say this is 44 pounds. So about an 8-pound difference. I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but I went ahead and borrowed my neighbor's bathroom scale. So this right here is just a typical bathroom scale. I don't know the accuracy of this, but it's gonna be close enough for this experiment. So we're gonna go ahead and weigh the OEM wheel and tire versus the aftermarket TE37 wheel and tire. Let's go ahead and see what happens with the end results. All right, let's go ahead and weigh the OEM FL5 wheel and tire on the bathroom scale. In order to activate this, you need to tap this, hit 0. Okay, it's hitting 0, and get this thing loaded up. 52.2 pounds. Man, that's a lot of weight right here. All right, so there you have it. The OEM FL5 Type R wheel and tire weighs 52.2 pounds. Okay, now it's time for the TE37 God Spec's turn. How much does this wheel and tire combination weigh using the bathroom scale? Let's go ahead and activate it until it turns 0. Okay, it's registering. 47.2 pounds. That's a lot more than I thought it would be. I was expecting around 44 pounds. Okay, so that's how much a TE37 God Spec with a 275 35/18 tire weighs. 47.2 pounds. Just a little FYI. All right, guys, let's just go ahead and do a side-by-side comparison where we got both wheels side by side. So I got the OEM FL5 Type R wheel. This is a 19 by 9.5 with a plus 60 millimeter offset with a 265 3019 tire. And on the right side here, we got an 18 by 10 plus 40 millimeter offset Volk Racing TE37 with a 275 3518 tire. All right, guys, so what do you guys prefer? Do you like the 19s or do you like the 18s? I'm personally starting to grow on the 18s. Like I said before, I've never done this before, downsizing wheels and tires when going with aftermarket. But you know, I just wanted a little bit less rotational mass, and I just love the face forward concavity of these God Spec TE37 wheels. So let me know in the comments below if you went with an aftermarket lightweight 19 wheel, or if you actually take the same route I went with an 18 or maybe a different style 18-inch wheel. Be happy to know your thoughts in the comments below. All right, so enough talk about 19s versus 18s. Let's go ahead and take the next steps in order to mount it onto the FL5 Type R sitting there up on jack stands. Let's go ahead and start mounting some wheels. Okay, these TE37s are officially prepared to go onto the FL5. So first things first, we went ahead and ceramic coated the outside face, and then we went ahead and installed the raised valve stem right here that's included with the wheels. And then go on the back side of the wheel, we ceramic coated the barrel and inside the spokes as well. And last but not least, we put a piece of PPF or paint protection film over the factory decals of these wheels, because these decals, for whatever reason, they don't adhere to matte finishes such as like bronze and matte black. The matte finishes, these decals come off real easy, just a little FYI. I guess the only thing I should have done differently is maybe gotten like a matte piece of PPF as opposed to a regular PPF. So there's a little bit of gloss factor right here, but you're not going to see it because it's going to be inside the wheel, and these calipers and rotors are going to be hiding it for the most part. But essentially I just wanted to preserve the wheel stickers that came on the wheels. All right, I'm going to go ahead and remove the tire decal, and then we're going to mount it to the hub on the FL5 Type R. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, how are we feeling about the God Spec TE37s on the FL5 Type R? What do you guys think? 18s versus the OEM 19s. I know it's still up in the air, and I know the suspension is sagging right now, so you got major wheel gaps. So let's go ahead and lower this car safely onto the ground. So I'm gonna go ahead and start in the rear, get that taken care of, pull the jack stands out. Okay, so getting the front end on the ground is a little bit more tricky. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my hydraulic jack, roll it behind the motor on the underside of the car, and hit the main jacking point on the center of the car, raise it up. I'm gonna go ahead and pull away the jack stands, and then I'm gonna put the tires with some wood underneath it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take the hydraulic jack, lower it down, pull the jack out, and then I'm gonna go ahead and take the hydraulic jack, lift it up by the factory jack point, pull out each piece of wood on the front, and they'll be safely on the ground. There's just no clearance, especially with this car being lowered, in order to get that hydraulic jack from underneath it. That's what the point of the wood is. All right, let's go ahead and safely put the FL5 Type R back on the ground. Okay, and now that we're safely on the ground, the most important step is we need to go ahead and torque the lug nuts. So I'm going to torque these to the OEM lug nut torque spec, which is 94 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and torque the lug nuts. Okay, I believe we're now at 100% and all the steps and procedures in order to install these God Spec TE37s on the FL5 Type R. And man, I mean, just look at these things. I mean, I'm really impressed. I mean, what's your initial thoughts on these wheels, guys? You think these wheels, or do you like the OEM 19s or maybe some aftermarket 19s? Okay, so now first impressions on these wheels, they're a little bit smaller obviously than the 19s, and the tire's a little bit thicker. That's a given. But I mean, the concavity of these things is just impressive. I mean, I think the fitment on these is basically dead on with how the tire protrudes just right from the outside fender. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a ride up to the local park. We'll get some better views so we can do some better coverage here. Alrighty guys, check it out. We finally got the God Spec 18x10 TE37s onto the FL5. And my first question to you guys is, did I choose the right color? So obviously this is the matte black. I was actually contemplating on the bronze finish, so I want to get your impressions on what color I should have chosen, or if I chose the right one, or maybe if I chose blue or white. So be happy to know your thoughts in the comments below. And question number 2, did I do the right sizing on these custom wheels? So like I said before, I've never downsized custom wheels. I've always upsized, you know, going from a 17 to an 18 or a 16 to an 18 with the Acura RSX. But these are 18, so stock is 19. We went down to an 18, a little bit more tire on this car, so I'm still getting used to it. I'm actually starting to dig the meteor tire look as opposed to the more flashy 19s, but I don't know, what do you guys think? 18s or 19s for the FL5 Type R? And I want to go ahead and talk about why I chose some custom wheels for this car. So I'm really hardcore into cars and customizing, and putting a set of wheels and tires really personalizes the vehicle itself. That's just my opinion now. So essentially this is my 46th birthday present to myself. So last year, my 45th birthday was the FL5 Type R, and this year we got some God Spec 18x10 TE37s. I never thought that I was going to have a set of TE37 wheels. I mean, these things are hard to come by and they're a little bit pricey. So that leads me to my next topic, is the cost on these things. We'll get into the specifics on the next video for that. So I hope you can join us on the next video. We're going to go and talk about the cost breakdown, dive into the offset technicalities on these cars, and we'll talk about more details and specifics with the God Spec TE37s. And I hope you guys can tune in for that video. Okay, I want to go ahead and give special thanks to Garage IMI for actually special ordering these God Spec 18x10 TE37 wheels from Volk Racing themselves, and also keeping me specifically updated on the order process, going from Japan over to Australia and then over here in North America. So it was a very pleasant ordering experience. And second thing is Discount Tire Direct. So Discount Tire Direct actually took special care in handling these 18x10 God Spec TE37s and mounting the Yokohama tires, not damaging the wheels. So 2 thumbs up to Discount Tire Direct and Garage IMI. Alrighty guys, we're all out of time for today's episode, and I hope you can tune into the next one. We're actually getting the technical aspects of the offset and details of the wheels, and also do a road review and how they compare to the FL5 OEM wheel and tire setup. Anyhow, if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.